Welcome to the online learning platform of Department of Civil Engineering at BMS Institute of Technology and Management. I am Dr. Rajesh Gopinath and you're along with me for the course Environmental Protection and Management. Last session we had discussed about EMS auditing. We had learnt about auditors, their roles and qualification in the context of environmental audits. In today's session, as you can see in slide 4, we shall speak about non-conformance, corrective and preventive measures. If you look at slide 5, first I'll be introducing you to the concept of non-conformance. Then I shall be dealing with respect to the corrective measures and the preventive measures. Further, I shall be enlightening you with the various steps in identifying and resolving non-conformance. Moving further, you shall learn about its documentation. Then we shall be summarizing it and you shall find the various references for your kind perusal. Let us move to slide 6. If you look at the title, it says examples for non-conformance. You might find this amusing that rather than introducing you to the concept of non-conformance, I am directly giving you examples. And this is because I strongly believe that knowing the examples will make you familiarized with the actual concept. So what are the examples of non-conformance? Let us say in a workplace, in an industry, in a factory, in a shop floor, you make the following observations. Accidental emissions of air pollutant, accidental discharges of hazardous waste, deviation from standard operating practices, improper handling of hazardous materials, accidental occurrences, accidents occurring with risk to environment and safety of an individual. So basically what is that we are looking at? We are looking at deviations. We are looking at deviations from an ideal situation, deviations from an ideal maintenance program, deviations from an ideal environmental control scenario, deviations from a proper safe working habit. So if we understand that such deviations exist in an industry, or even any one of these deviations exist in a factory or a company, then these deviations are termed as non-conformance, which means they do not conform with the standard procedure of environmental management systems. My dear friends, now having understood what non-conformance basically means, let us move on to slide 7. So, as I told you, non-conformance is basically deviations from standard procedures of EMS. Now, when I had given the examples to you, when I was listing the various examples to you, you might have observed most of them could have serious implications and few of them would have minor implications. Therefore, these deviations can be major or minor as well. Okay, which means you can have major non-conformances and minor non-conformances. So basically what is that we are dealing with? We are dealing with ISO 14001. So wherein the clause 4.5.2 addresses, corrects and prevents any non-conformances which can exist within EMS. Therefore, whenever an EMS audit is being carried out, non-conformance will be an essential criteria to be looked forward to understand whether EMS is properly followed, whether EMS certification should be bestowed upon this company. Now please understand, evidences for any non-conformance can arise from two forums. One is the internal reporting system of EMS itself. Second is from the external sources who could be your end users, the stakeholders or the suppliers. Nevertheless, the bottom line is, any company, industry for that matter, you must have an inbuilt capacity and mechanism for detection of non-conformances. Let us move on to slide 8. So, here we are now looking at major non-conformances. So, as I told you, any deviation which has a major impact on the efficiency or effectiveness of EMS would be a major non-conformance. That is, a deficiency or deviation that can seriously impair the functioning of EMS itself. So what could be the examples for that? If any one element of ISO 14001 has not been implemented, if the procedures are not developed or not even implemented, if the company has failed to take corrective or preventive actions for any non-conformances, and of course, several minor non-conformances can also have the same impact as one major non-conformance. Okay, so what could be the consequences of major non-conformances? The company will not get the certification, the registration to ISO 14001 will remain delayed until the company, the occupier has resolved the problem, until the problem has not been corrected, and only then, when the further re-audit takes place, then the registration will be in place. Let us move to the next slide, slide 9. Now we are talking about minor non-conformances. So as I said before, a minor deviation which will not seriously impair effectiveness of the EMS, but however it will still have issues that needs to be addressed. What could be the examples for this? Let us say there are procedures which requires certain minor changes which can make it more effective. Let us say among all your employees, few of the individuals do not follow a standard operating procedure in the judicious right manner. Let us say all documentations are not in place and few of the records are incomplete. This could be with respect to housekeeping also. This could be with respect to inventorization as well. So what is the consequence of minor non-conformances? Here, a company may receive registration for ISO 14001, but they must commit to fix the problem within 2 months, that is 60 days. And the correction will definitely be confirmed with the next audit. Now, let us move on to the next slide, that is slide 10. Let us now talk about the corrective and preventive actions. So why do you have corrective and preventive measures in an enterprise? Not just enterprise, your household or any premise for that matter. It is to make sure that you fix the problem. Let us say there is pollution which is taking place, so you try to prevent the pollution from happening. And if the pollution has already occurred, then you correct it. Okay, in the similar manner, both corrective and preventive actions need to be incorporated in an industry with respect to its EMS. Now, as I told you, corrective and preventive measure is not to fix the deficiencies of a system, okay, but it is to fix the system in itself. Alright, now what exactly would be a corrective action? Corrective action is basically going to help you with fixing the problem on an immediate basis. But preventive action is going to help you to stop the problem from occurring again and again. As per ISO 14001, any organization shall establish and maintain procedures for defining responsibility and authority towards handling and investigating non-conformance, taking necessary actions to mitigate any impacts that may have happened, and for initiating and completing the corrective and preventive measures. If you look at 4.5.2 of ISO 14001, the corrective and preventive actions which are being taken is to actually eliminate the actual and potential non-conformances, and these actions that you take must be appropriate to the magnitude of the problem and must definitely commensurate with the environmental impact which has been encountered. Moving on, the organization shall also implement and record any changes in the documented procedure as an outcome of corrective and preventive action, which means the main ideology or objective of corrective and preventive action is not just to fix deficiencies, is not just to fix a system, not just to fix problems, but to look towards continual improvement. That is, it is not a makeshift arrangement. The company shall always focus for a continual improvement in itself. Let us now move on to slide 11. So, what are the various steps which is involved in initiating a corrective action? Firstly, you must investigate the cause of non-conformance. Then you must record the result of your investigation. Then you shall determine the corrective actions which are required to eliminate the cause of non-conformance. Okay, so in the first three steps, in the investigation, you have identified the reason why non-conformance happens. Okay, further, you document the results of the investigation on how you have arrived at it. Thirdly, you determine what are the measures, corrective measures that I need to implement to eliminate non-conformance. Having said and done all these three, if you are always focusing about continual improvement, then the fourth step is most important. You must check whether the corrective actions have been useful, benevolent, have they been effective in eliminating the non-conformance itself. Okay, now let us move further. The steps involved in preventive action. Now, as I told you, corrective action will give you immediate relief. Let us say there is a tap which is leaking. So, you fix the tap. You repair the tap. That is corrective action. While preventive action is to ensure that you use a better model of tap. Let us say you buy a tap which works on sensor. So there is no chance of any employee or worker leaving the tap open or the tap leaking. Okay. Yeah. So now let us move on to the steps involved in preventive action. So how do you go about? Again, first you shall analyze all the processes to eliminate the potential causes of non-conformances. Then you shall initiate preventive actions, and finally you must check whether the preventive actions have been effective. So it is very similar to the steps involved in corrective action. The only difference that might be involved here is you are looking at a strategic plan. You are looking at a point of view wherein the problem should not exist anymore, which means the investigation will include all possible dimensions, facets, aspects and processes which are connected with the potential cause of a non-conformance. So you need to have a 360-degree view of that non-conformance. Alright, now let us move on to the next slide, 12. So, now let us try to understand the various steps in identifying and resolving non-conformance. Any organization which is aiming for ISO certification, that is undergoing the EMS audit, shall establish, implement and maintain procedures for dealing with actual and potential non-conformances. That is, it shall have within its system a mechanism to handle any actual non-conformity or any potential non-conformities which might occur, and shall thereby take both corrective and preventive actions. Okay, and this by default will include responsibility as well as authority. So let us now try to understand how we identify and resolve non-conformances. Okay, now in the first step, you need to document the non-conformance. How do we go about doing it? It is very simple. We should identify the problem through a routine inspection. Monitoring must be carried out. The audit findings must be analyzed. Trends must be analyzed. Say, let us say, accident trends. Employee comments must be taken. If the employee has any grievances or complaints, they also must be taken into account. Please note that employee experience will be very handy. Now, the second step is to notify and mitigate. Herein, we must involve people with first-hand knowledge of the issues and the authority for achieving the sustainable solutions. Third step, that is investigating the cause. Here, the problem and its underlying causes must be investigated. Here also, you must involve people throughout with sufficient influence so as to make sure that the things happen promptly. The next step, we must be able to prevent reoccurrence. This involves following up with monitoring to confirm that the implemented solutions have been effective in the long run, that is in the long term. So there is a need to follow up to ensure that the solution provides lasting improvement. Please remember, the ulterior goal is continual improvement. Okay. Next step, that is step number 5. Here we need to modify any existing procedures with preventive measures as your goal. That is, identify the best solution and the people responsible for implementing them. We have to ensure that the solution is adequate for the size and nature of problem, that is the magnitude. Okay, and the underlying causes must be fixed once and for all. Finally, communication of the change procedure. There should be updation in the procedures with respect to documentations. This must include corrective and preventive measures, and this communication must go to all stakeholders involved. If this doesn't happen, then the entire exercise will be futile. Having understood the theoretical concepts of non-conformance, corrective and preventive actions, let us understand how they exist in the real world in the print of black and white, that is with respect to documentation. Let us move on to slide 13. Slide 13 shows you, or slide 13 onwards will show you a sample empty template wherein after an inspection details of non-conformity has to be entered. In slide 13 especially, you can see aspects such as name of the company, serial number, date of audit, name of the auditor, name of the auditee, okay, the procedure being followed, details of non-conformance, the objective evidence which has been taken into account. Okay, slide 14. Here you can see what are the probable root causes why a non-conformity occurs. Okay, now what is important here is, please look at the abbreviation CAPA, that is corrective action, preventive action. That is, this form also mentions what all actions have been identified, whether it is corrective or preventive, to eliminate the non-conformity, whether major or minor. Then in serial number E, that is the alphabet E, we can understand that there is an analysis which is being carried out with respect to whether the corrective and preventive actions are applicable or not applicable. That is, do they have a significant impact or not? Slide 15. Here you can find the details with respect to the environmental, office and health section documentation. Of course, now from industry to industry this may change. Here what you need to understand is there is a comparison. Okay, that is first and foremost do you have a manual for health and safety? Are the procedures listed in that? Obviously, yes. Now, within that manual and procedures, do you require an amendment or not? That is, if there is a non-conformity which is happening with respect to some procedure, okay, so is an amendment necessary? Is a corrective or preventive measure necessary? If yes, has the amendment been carried out? Alright. Now, as I always told you, it is not sufficient whether you just recommend any corrective preventive measures. Unless you do not check the effectiveness of implementation, it really doesn't help the cause. So verification of the corrective and preventive action also comes in the picture. So you can see that there are signatories who are involved here with the designation and date. Let's move on to slide 16. So slide 16 finally talks about the effectiveness. That is, the effectiveness of the corrective and preventive action. Its verification details have been mentioned. Okay, now let's move further. Slide 17. Here I have basically attached some standard informations for a form which has been filled. Until slide 16, I had shown you empty templates. But in this slide, I am showing you a sample subset of the filled document. You can see very clearly the information with respect to company logo, okay, information with respect to what procedure is being followed, which division it is applying to. Here it is environmental, occupational, health and safety management system. Okay, what is the document number? Which revision is this? Is it the first revision or second revision? When was this carried out? So how many pages are there in this document? And when we carried out this, what all documents have been referred while undertaking this process? Finally, you see signatories, that is auditee, auditor and the verifier. Okay. Let's move on to the summary, that is slide 18. So, as you can see, in this presentation, we had learnt about non-conformity. We understood the major and minor non-conformances. We understood the respective implications. We also understood the significance of correcting and preventing non-conformances from happening. We also understood the timeline which is given if a minor or a major non-conformance has been observed. We also understood the real significance of a preventive action and a corrective action. And finally, the ultimate goal was all this is being carried out for continuous improvement within the system itself, for the system itself, keeping a benchmark of environmental conservation. Slide 19. These are few of the references that have gone through. You may also look into this for your kind perusal. My dear students, for the next class, we shall talk about the application of environmental management system in varying industries. I thank you once again for your patient hearing. This is Dr. Rajesh Gopinath signing off. Godspeed.